Welcome to Residential Tech Talks. I'm Jeremy Glowacki, Executive Editor of Residential Tech Today. On this week's podcast, Jim Pearse joins us from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where he is on the road meeting with AV retailers and integrators in his brand new job as President of ProSource, the largest audio, video, and integration buying group in the United States. His newly created role is an expansion of ProSource's senior management team to support the continued growth of the buying group. He has more than 30 years of extensive retail experience, including Wireless Advocates, where he served as President and CMO through 2021, Sears Holdings Corporation, where he served as CEO and VP of Consumer Electronics, and Ultimate Electronics, spanning a variety of executive responsibilities from 1998, including the title of President from 2007 to 2011. Jim Pearse, thanks for joining us today. Congratulations on the new job.
Yeah, thanks so much. Nice to meet you guys.
You're joining us from the road where you're diving right into it. Where do you actually call home these days?
Yeah, so I live in Seattle, Washington. I've been up there 7 years, but I grew up in Denver, Colorado. That's where Ultimate Electronics was based out of. And so, so it's good. I've had a great trip so far.
Well, very good. You're definitely picking the right weather area to be in as we kind of get into the unpredictable days of spring. I actually am looking forward to heading down to Florida for spring break next week myself, getting a little warmer weather. So there's a certain assumption with our audience that is either watching or listening that they know what ProSource is or what a buying group is. But I also like to make sure that I don't leave out context on things like that in my conversations, because, my dad might be tuning in and has no idea. So as best as I can explain it, and you can correct me if needed, originally buying groups gave purchasing power to smaller independent retailers or later on custom integrators that otherwise might have been overlooked by large manufacturers like TV manufacturers, audio manufacturers. But then in more recent years, the role of these groups has evolved to also encompass training, peer-to-peer networking, thought leadership, and other marketing assistance. Does that kind of distill it down the best?
Yeah, that's exactly what it does. What it does is it consolidates all the hard work these business owners do into more buying power. So it allows you to go to the vendor in a consolidated way and help to develop more of a national strategy for the vendor, and also bring those benefits down to the individual retailer where maybe they wouldn't have seen those kind of benefits to margin or ship, freight, things like that. And so it, just in talking with the members this week, they really do value, what we do for them, and we work hard just to represent them. And, at the end of the day, what ProSource does is deliver, value to our members in the form of, member benefit.
Yeah. And I want to dive into your role a little bit more as president, and I couldn't make it to the ProSource event in Las Vegas last month. So when I received the press release about your hiring, the first thing you just scan over something, you're like, uh-oh, Dave Workman has retired. And I quickly saw that you're in a newly created role that sounds like it actually takes some workload off of Dave's shoulders as CEO. Yeah. Looking back, I realized, hey, you and Dave used to work together, or both worked for Ultimate at different times.
Yeah, it's my career's come full circle. I began my career selling car audio, and my family's car audio store, and at the age of 14, and I grew up through that business doing everything. I vacuumed probably every inch of carpet, and sold stereos and TVs in nearly every one of the stores, and so as I kind of grew up in kind of working in the stores, and then went off to school and came back. I worked for Magnolia for a year or two, and then came back to Denver. Dave became my boss at that point. And so him and I became not only very good friends, but, he mentored me through the early parts of my career and, taught me much of what I know today.
And you can maybe just clue us in a little bit. I mean, it's early days here on your role as president, but what sorts of roles are you going to inherit from Dave that maybe he'd been doing as CEO, or additional roles that help to expand what ProSource is able to do with its members?
Yeah, I think that the strategy right now is that in the first 90 days, I really want to make sure that, I'm listening closely to, the vendor perceptions and understanding of the group benefits, beginning to work with the vendors. I'll start with mainly the CI vendors, because we're in the process, as you know, in the merchandising calendar. This is an important time of year to reconstitute the programs and deals for this upcoming year. And so I'll begin working with Andy Orozco on primarily the CI area of the business from a merchandising standpoint. We have our spring meeting coming up in San Antonio, with our Pro and Power members. And so really beginning to listen and talk with the membership, of which many I know. It's a little bit of a Groundhog Day. I grew up in the business with many of these, great leaders. And so, and really begin to challenge our, and look at our strengths and weaknesses and opportunities, and begin to work on crafting a, or 2 or 3 year plan with Dave, that we can align with, our board and our members, and, begin the process of continuing to, to evolve the group. And so that would be the primary focus for the first 90 days. And, really working with the ProSource team. We have a wonderful team, ProSource, and it was one of my, really exciting, things that I found out very, very quickly, is that the team is a well-seasoned team, and, they execute really well. And so, just working with them to build the, level of trust and planning to, to begin to execute for the back half of the year.
Yeah, ProSource is such a big group that you have, I forget the title, but it's a regional representatives for the group, right? In each.
Yeah, so we're unique. ProSource is unique in the fact that we do have a 6-person, what we call, regional team, and what they do and their role in the organization is very interesting. I was traveling with Frank, one of our DMs, and what he does is that we align on strategies with our vendor partners, or areas of focus that we would like to, help our members with. We could have a new vendor, we could have a new category, a new strategy, a new marketing tool. There's a variety of, services that we offer even beyond, the actual deals from the, from the vendors. We align on those, and then they actually go and visit the individual dealers and sit down with them and do business reviews, and then talk about the various opportunities that they might be interested, in getting involved with. And interestingly, they do an incredible job of marrying the vendors into the dealers and making the networking connections that are required to determine if there's a, a business that, a business relationship that can be created out of that.
Well, we will continue our conversation with Jim Pearse after the break.
Do you want superior smart home automation at a great value? Shelly Wi-Fi Relays by Allterco Robotics cover DC to line voltage, allowing you to control lights, outlets, appliances, garage doors, pumps, and much more. There are Shelly sensors and power measurement devices to help you measure temperature, humidity, lux, or motion, and electrical consumption from single wire to 3-phase with neutral. You can use Shelly with a licensed driver for Control 4, Elon, or other premium systems, as well as your customer's existing hub, voice assistant, or any platform that accepts REST, MQTT, or CoAP. Shelly can make IoT very easy. Available now at Blackwire, City Electric Supply, and Worthington, or at ShellyUSA.com.
Welcome back. We're talking with Jim Pearse, president of the ProSource Buying Group. Jim, whenever I interview someone for the first time on the podcast, I like to kind of talk about their early influences, and even sometimes going back to their childhood, ask them if they're even, it was an inkling that they're going to work in tech. Yours is a more unique story, having, as you mentioned, worked in the family business back when you were 14. So your dad founded what became Ultimate Electronics, correct?
Yeah, he founded his first store in 1968 in Arvada, Colorado. It's a franchise called Team Electronics. And then in the early 70s, it was the heyday of hi-fi, if you remember those days. And then he decided to pull away from Team and open his own store with only him and my mom, and me sitting in a, small bed in the back of the store, I'm sure. And so, I've always in this business loved the dynamics of the business model, and it's very fast moving. It requires, strong strategic and operational discipline, and then, and it's unlike many industries in that, each year the products change dramatically and they advance in the needs of the demand cycles from our end use customers, and how they shop, and how they find us through marketing and things like that. And so I love that part of the business, and that it moves very, very quickly. But with the cherry on the top is being around some of the most amazing technology in the world. I saw a presentation of a Sony TV last night that absolutely blew me away, and the cinemas that these guys have built with our vendor partners, and the lighting technology now that is becoming a bigger and bigger part of our business, and beginning to integrate the amazing talent into these new categories is really the thing that just makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah. Now you as a group have some of the larger retail companies as part of the membership, and you in fact were part of that world as well back in your career with Ultimate, which became a big juggernaut of multiple locations, like bigger than anything else that's really out there other than like a Best Buy, I guess. But what you also hit, I guess, right around that recession time when everything just got really bad. We see that swing, and when the bigger you are, the harder it is to stay strong, I guess. And then there's smaller company issues as well. We're in a really good peak boom time right now, although supply chain keeps everyone a little on edge. Supply chain issues. As you're talking to these dealers, do you have that wisdom to impart about, hey, be ready for when things are up, they always do come down for at least a bit? Is that like some wisdom that you might have from your experience working in retail?
Yeah, I hope that I can just bring perspective as I begin to meet dealers, just larger national kind of perspective. It gives you a little bit more of a detailed, disciplined look at the way the business is being run, inventories, and the financials, and the 3-year planning cycles that are required to make sure that your business is set up in a way, and is strong in the foundation, so that you're able to, make sure that you have gunpowder for when, if times, change. However, I have noticed that coming through this period of everybody having to stay at home and, wear masks and everything, it does feel as if the consumer has engaged this industry in a different way, and has, kind of seen, it's almost like they have not seen as much of the technology, and now they're beginning to engage and what I'm hearing is that when you start to think about lighting and some of these, these larger TVs that, have really advanced with QLED and all of those technologies, my sense is that, and my hope is that, that this trend is going to continue in this industry, because there's, the business was strong during COVID. And now, friends come over and see this amazing technology that people have invested in through that period of time. People have done the research because their at-home entertainment it's in a different spot. We wouldn't have had, probably a call like this 3 or 4 years ago, And so as this technology changes and people are engaging this channel, maybe more than ever, and really valuing the home entertainment aspect in comfort and health and all these different things at home in a way that they've never done before, largely because we're just home a lot more and we appreciate it. And we've taken the time to really think about it.
Yeah. And many think that the at home part will continue in a lot of ways, because some businesses have just found that it doesn't make sense to go back to an office. So you're going to continue to see the emphasis on that home, and be able to apply the save money from different things, from maybe commuting, I don't know, toward the home. But the other thing, having that lighting category, that seems like a bit of a protective buffer for the, I don't know, the flakiness of electronics that, entertainment that maybe seems a little more frivolous, or you don't need to update it every year. There's something that can fill in the gaps. It's infrastructure almost for the home that you're talking about. So working.
Yeah. And I think that, I'm, hopefully a quick learner. What I learned about this particular lighting category is how it can really change the look and feel of your entire home. Like when you think about the things that we invest in our home, couches and, decorations, all these different things. Meanwhile, you have hundreds of lights in your home. And when you change those, it changes the mood, the feel, the color, the art on your walls, and you can, literally change the entire feeling of your home. And I guess I'd never really fully engaged it until I saw some of these demonstrations. And I do feel as if this category is going to continue to be a really nice buffer to help continue to grow the business, regardless of the consumer electronics business. And the other interesting thing is that the outdoor lighting category also, the technology involved in that is, you wouldn't think technology. People think, oh, I'll just go to Home Depot and pay $80 for lights, and then they don't work in 6 months, and you kind of bail on it. But now there's lighting architecture that is being introduced into the channel. I just saw a young man today that had a huge CAD drawing, and it was all just lighting for the home and outdoors. And so, I do think that it's a really wonderful kind of extension of maybe the core competency of the CI channel and our ProSource members all the way through, and taking those investments and core competencies against this new category.
Yeah, we had one of your I guess your lighting. I'm bad with words today. This is great for a podcast. It's your lighting board or group, Patrick Laidlaw from WAC.
Yeah,
we had him on as a guest, and he made the case that outdoor category is a great first step into lighting, just because you can kind of do it almost like audio, where it's low voltage and you run lines and you know distribution pretty well and can kind of feel your way through it. And there's a little bit of design you get to play with without having major issues with walls and things like that. So great entry into the category if that's all you do at first. And then there's a lot more behind that.
Yeah, I absolutely am thinking and will think of coming to the membership with, how do you enter into the category strategically and operationally? And then how do you evolve in the category? And there's different steps as you go from, kind of outdoor lighting, which is simple and get your feet wet and you begin to learn how to design. You get to see the customer's face where their eyes light up, and the dad comes home at night and, the house is just lit up and looks beautiful. Whereas the night before it was just a dark house. And then, then you can begin to make the evolution into DMF lighting, which is lighting that you literally screw into your existing, lighting fixtures, and then you're able to control and begin to adjust the coloring and moods in the room. And so you begin to get that benefit. And it doesn't require, a really big investment in installation. And then as you begin to learn from that, evolve into the technology side of it, where you begin to really, integrate your entire lighting in your home into your audio video control systems.
Yeah, exactly. I changing topics slightly. I really wanted to learn a little bit more about your career path, and specifically most recently wireless advocates, because that was a new one for me. I have been to Costco stores, but not in a while. And I see that was basically a kiosk within a Costco for and military bases for I guess mobile phone services. Is that how it worked?
Yeah, it's a very interesting business. Dan Bretler, who is a ProSource member with Car Toys, he's a legend in the industry. In the car audio space. And so he connected with Costco, I want to say 15 years ago, 14, 15 years ago. And what we do for Costco, or what it's a third-party business, and we are the only third-party business that had T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, and then and so you can choose, as opposed to just going into an AT&T store, so you can get the best deal.
Okay.
And the best plan to suit you. And then you're working with Samsung and Apple and Google and LG to connect them with the proper, hardware. And then you're working within the Costco and military framework to, develop the best value and service that you can to get people set up with phones. And so, I learned a lot, in that business. Again, a very dynamic business.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm addicted to dynamic businesses, but but it's a really fantastic, company with, great leadership, and I certainly wish those guys, continued success, and working within Costco in that, with that particular category was. It was intense because Costco expects a lot, for sure.
Yeah. Talk about name brands over your career. You probably not the best timing for when you were able to do it, but working for Sears Holdings there for a bit, and probably undertaking something that was just a little too hard to make happen at that point in time with whatever it was, but the bringing in consumer electronics.
So it was interesting. A really good friend of mine named Ron Boyer. He's been in multiple CEO roles, and him and I met many years ago when I was doing marketing at Ultimate, and he was a rep or a director of sales into Ultimate Electronics for Sony Electronics, and so him and I were able to do some very unique programs that were kind of cutting edge. And so we'd always maintain a friendship, and he took over as the chief merchant, and he called me up one day and he said, "Hey, Jim, can you come help me fix this consumer electronics business at Sears?" And they were struggling in many categories, but primarily consumer electronics. It just was, had been, neglected over the years. And so, it took a few phone calls for sure to really consider the position, but sure enough, he convinced me to travel out there every week, and we made great progress. We had a lot of fun. We did some very unique things at Sears to evolve them into the smart home category. We put in a new accessory, a branded accessory business in for them, and Ron and I had a lot of fun. We lived right near each other. And so we many times would sit there and have dinner, and I had a lot of fun doing that. And frankly, I learned a lot. Sears, the Sears brand, everybody has an opinion about it, mostly negative. But let me tell you, it's a legacy brand that, and an amazing, company, really, at one time a large retailer, in the world. And so I had a lot of fun there, and I learned what big business looks like and how to navigate within big business, and the disciplines required to operate within such a big company.
Well, yeah, for sure. I would take that away from your resume as much as anything. It's just having worked with those really, really large entities, like a Costco, like Sears. And then being able to bring that into ProSource, that wisdom, those bruises and whatever that might have occurred over the time, right? So you've seen a lot. So it must be nice coming in, like you said at the beginning, to an existing structure where things are working really well, and you're basically like adding more hands and experience to the group that already kind of knows what they're doing there.
Yeah, I think that Dave and I were a great team in the past, and the ProSource family has really done business is just they've grown and grown and grown, and just showed tremendous trajectory in the core business, and they've added a lot of additional services beyond just the discounts that we get from the vendors. And so it's great to be able to come in here with fresh eyes. Dave and I were just talking this morning, and just really being able to step back from this whole thing, and hopefully with my experience provide some perspectives on the not only the strengths, but, really the opportunities, as we look into the future, and then, really things that we need to be working on right now to increase our, our capabilities in execution. And so, the reason why I went to the field immediately to spend time, with 2 tanks of gas. I don't know how many miles, but, we've been on the road for 5 days now. And it's just super exciting to be able to, learn from the dealers and then translate their needs and wants and requests into real programs that help them out. And so I have a lot going through my head. I'm drinking through a fire hose for sure, but I do feel excited and comfortable that I'm going to be able to, hopefully continue to, help lead and evolve the group, under Dave's leadership.
Well, you have to work on all your expressions, because I know Dave likes the table stakes and either fire hose fits right in there, I think, is one of those expressions. So you're in Fort Lauderdale as we speak. What other stops are on your plan here until you get to that May event in San Antonio?
Yeah, so we have a meeting in Dallas next week. It's our board leadership and our company's leadership, and so we're going to go down and begin that process of planning as I discussed. So I'm excited to really get face to face with the board, which primarily been around Zoom. Walt Stinson is our chairman of the board, and I competed against him in Denver at Listen Up when we were at Ultimate in the same town. And so I've known Walt for a long time, and I'm looking forward to partnering with those guys to get that done. And then we'll head to the Nashville area with just the management team of the business to visit some dealers and really just take our planning that we do at the board level and kind of bring it down into the team and get their thoughts and opinions about it. And then we should be able to be in a position to bring a lot of those strategies, ideas, thoughts to that spring meeting. And so it's going to be busy on the road. My wife actually asked me today, boy, you're going to be on the road a lot. But I'm excited. I'm having a blast doing it. And so, yeah, look, I always start with the field because that's where the rubber meets the road in business. And when you talk to the owners of these businesses, they always know best. And, if I could do my best to stay out of the way, that probably would be my strategy.
Well, I'm planning to be at that event in San Antonio, so I will get to meet you face to face there. And I do appreciate your time, Jim. I know you're busy, and best of luck with the road trip, the tour here, and great chatting with you.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. It's nice to meet you, and I really look forward to seeing you. Bring your cowboy hats down in San Antonio, so we'll figure out a way to have some fun. That's right. Jim Pearse is president of the ProSource Buying Group. You can learn more about Jim and the group at ProSourceinfo.com. And that wraps up today's show. If you're new to Residential Tech Talks, please subscribe to the weekly podcast on your preferred platform and consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, check out all the latest residential tech news at the magazine's website, restechtoday.com, where you can also subscribe to the bi-monthly print or digital magazine and to our Tuesday and Friday email newsletters. Until next time, please stay safe, stay inspired, and let us know if you have a great story to tell.
Residential Tech Talk, lighting specialist to architect, residential tech, home automation device, home or smart house.